Hello, my name is Phil Davis. Welcome to this month's chocolate tasting. We've got a great selection of chocolate to introduce you to this month. Now, the first is from a company in Peru, Cacao Suyo. Now, Cacao Suyo is known as the finest chocolate maker in Peru. And I actually met these guys in Paris at the Chocolate Salon. And they have a very special cacao that goes into crafting this bar. This is their Amazonas bar. Now, Cacao Suyo has boots on the ground exploring the depths of the Amazon jungle in Peru, looking for extremely fine flavor, but undiscovered types of cacao. And this bar is made with one of those cacaos. The name of this bar is Lacuna, and they actually won a gold medal at the International Chocolate Awards in London in 2019 for this bar. And classically, this cacao has really bright and vibrant notes of blackberry. And it's one of my favorite notes in all of chocolate. So let's find out what this bar has to offer in this batch. All right, looking at this chocolate, I'm going to snap the chocolate, and that will indicate the quality of the temper. All right, we got a good snap, which indicates a good quality temper. I also look at the sheen of the chocolate. I've got a nice sheen. Now, if you happen to see, a white powdery coating on the chocolate, that indicates blooming. Now, blooming usually occurs when the chocolate becomes too warm and then cools. And the cocoa butter, the cocoa mass, and the sugar start separating out from each other, and the temper becomes, destroyed. And at that point, you either have to retemper it yourself or use it for baking. So, as I approach this chocolate, I'm going to vigorously rub the largest surface area. I want the outer layer to melt. And now, I'm inhaling deeply. And right up front, I'm getting the notes of blackberry. And also, I'm getting these wonderful herbal notes of lemongrass, which is something that I haven't experienced before with this cacao. And that balance between the blackberry and the lemongrass is wonderful. Okay, now that I have a clear and distinct profile of the chocolate from inhaling, I'll put it in my mouth and let it melt for 15 seconds, pressing it against the roof of my mouth with my tongue. Now, immediately, the blackberry notes start coming through, and I'm also getting a little bit of star anise. And as it continues to melt on my tongue, the lemongrass notes start coming through as well. So I've got this wonderful mixture of blackberry, lemongrass, and a touch of star anise. Now, I can tell that the particle size on this is a little bit larger than 15 microns. And now I'm chewing, I'm mashing it around, I'm coating each part of my tongue. Sides, tip, top, front, middle, and back. So those lemongrass notes really start coming through even stronger in the mid and the finish. And now I have this wonderful flavor of blackberry and it's finishing really strong in blackberry. This is a wonderful bar of chocolate. If there would be one thing that I would advise the chocolate maker on, it would be to make the particle size a little bit smaller. However, chocolate makers are faced with a dilemma. As you grind the cacao, the particle size becomes smaller and smaller, and it becomes smoother and smoother chocolate. However, as long as you're in the grinding state, you're losing aromatics, volatiles, aromas, and flavors. Well, you want to get rid of all of the undesirable aromas and flavors, but not a shred of desirable flavor. And so, if a chocolate maker has to choose between perfect particle size and ultimate flavor, the best option is always to go with the best flavor. And if one can achieve the best flavor and get down to a target of 15 microns in particle size, that is the best of both worlds. But Cacao Suyo clearly took the best option in delivering maximum amount of desirable flavor. Now, one of the best ways to cleanse your palate in between chocolates is either with a chunk of hearth-baked European bread or great mineral water. This is one of my favorites. Now, I recommend that if you're using mineral water as a palate cleanser, that you have your mineral water at room temperature. If the mineral water is chilled, although it's refreshing, it actually numbs the taste buds, and it negatively affects your ability to taste the chocolate, especially when you're looking for the nuances of the flavor notes. The next bar of chocolate that we're going to be tasting is from a Canadian manufacturer by the name of Quantu. And the name of this chocolate is the Bagao. It's a 70% dark chocolate. And this chocolate is crafted with the same cacao that Cacao Suyo uses for their Lacuna bar. Now, in Cacao Suyo's Lacuna bar, we tasted notes of blackberry, lemongrass, and a little bit of star anise, especially in the opening of that bar. And it'll be interesting to compare and contrast the Quantu bar with the Cacao Suyo. All right, so I'm warming the chocolate. All right, now I can already discern that the aroma of this chocolate is quite a bit different from Cacao Suyo's. The blackberry notes are much more subtle. The herbal notes are toned, way down. And I'd say on this bar, I'm getting subtle blackberry notes and floral. Although, as it's melting on my tongue, the first notes that come through really powerfully are actually the lemongrass. I'm also getting a note of ginger. I can taste that Quantu has definitely done a lighter roast on this cacao than Cacao Suyo did. I'm also getting some rich caramel notes. And so I'm getting a lot of caramel notes, some slight notes of graham flour, some mid-range notes of blackberry and also the lemongrass and a touch of ginger. And now going back in for a second taste. Again, the first notes coming through the lemongrass, backed up by the blackberry. And as I chew, that blackberry and lemongrass just becomes stronger. And it finishes in kind of a Tahitian vanilla. And it's fascinating to compare and contrast 2 bars of chocolate made by different manufacturers from the same cacao. And, you know, this bar of chocolate by Quantu won a gold medal at the Winter 2018 Academy of Chocolate Awards in London. I'm going to cleanse my palate again with the sparkling mineral water. The next bar of chocolate we're going to try is by the French chocolate maker Francois Pralus. Now, Francois Pralus is the master of French dark roast, and it's strangely comforting. Now, Francois Pralus, you know, walks a fine line between dark roast and over roast. But when he gets it right, the result is magic. And this Jakarta bar is a perfect example of Francois Pralus nailing the French dark roast. Now you'll also notice that Francois Pralus's bars are quite a bit thicker than other manufacturers. About 7 to 8 millimeters thick. And the more cocoa butter you add during the chocolate making process, actually, the thicker you want to make the bar for proper mouthfeel. And you add cocoa butter to chocolate during the chocolate making process for a few reasons. First, as you're roasting the cacao with the shell on, the shell is absorbing some of the cocoa butter in the cacao. And so many chocolate manufacturers want to add back the cocoa butter that is lost. The second reason is it develops a very distinctive and luxuriant mouthfeel. Cocoa butter is an extremely healthful part of the chocolate, full of stearic acid. Again, one of the healthiest fats on the planet that builds your brain, your central nervous system, hormones, cell walls, and mitochondria. The other reason that you add cocoa butter to chocolate is for proper flow. So after you have conched the chocolate and temper the chocolate, you have to fill molds before you send the molds through a cooling tunnel, and you have to have the right flow properties. If you don't, then as you're depositing the chocolate in the mold, you get a very uneven distribution, and you have a wide variance of different thicknesses in the chocolate, but what you want is uniform thickness so that you get the same experience throughout the bar. So adding the proper amount of cocoa butter to the chocolate enables you to get uniform thickness. So as I'm warming up this bar and inhaling, I get wonderful spice notes. So first, I get notes of the French dark roast, which has some wonderful coffee-esque notes. And then from the bar itself, I'm getting great spice notes, including some cinnamon and allspice, and maybe a hint of clove. It smells like Thanksgiving and Christmas all wrapped up into one. And now, as I let the chocolate melt in my mouth, those cinnamon and allspice notes really start coming through. I'm also getting the roasty, coffee-esque notes and notes of roasted almonds. And the roasted almond notes become stronger and stronger as it's melting on my tongue. And I'm chewing, messing around. Now I have these wonderful almond butter notes coming through. And I have almond butter with cinnamon and a touch of allspice. And I also get some smoky hickory. And it's really finishing nicely in that smoked hickory. The smoked hickory, the almond butter, the cinnamon, and allspice with some dark roast French coffee notes, all combined to make this a great chocolate. I notice that the particle size also is a bit larger. Francois Pralus usually hits about 15 microns. I'm noticing that this is probably 21, 22 microns, but they have delivered wonderful flavor, and because of the extra cocoa butter, it does make a really nice mouth feel. Well, we want to thank you for joining us in this month's chocolate tasting, and we look forward to meeting you again next month for an exploration of the finest chocolate made in the world.